so I felt that very early. I was like, my dad's a huge bloody star. Doesn't matter if he does more television than movies and that there are movie stars. He was hugely popular. Wide angle shot of lots of people with a gajar. ये आप हमारे हाथ से खा लीजिए. So he was like, ये क्या कर रहे हैं आप लोग? ये क्या मैं अपने बेटे के साथ पिज्जा खा रहा हूँ. It would probably not be self-respecting of him to pick up the phone and say मेरे बेटे को ले लो या मेरे बेटे से मिल लो. It's a rooted film, but it's very like contemporary, so it should kind of give people that message. And he was like, "What's it about?" Like, there's two people, they meet on a train, this, that, blah, 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 and then they end up hanging together, and then they fall in love, and then he falls in love, and he was like, "You should call it Jab We Met."
If you look at it in terms of pure inheritance, you've inherited dance from your mom.
Sure.
And you've inherited performance in terms of acting from your father. Would that be correct to say? But your mom was an actor as well.
I hope I have.
Huh? You
I
have.
hope I have, yeah.
You have.
I was more happy about getting my hair from my mom.
Okay.
And getting my acting chops from dad. I was like, Dad, I don't want a hair. Because you were semi-bald at 30. And he used to keep messing with me. He was like, अभी तो तू हीरो बन गया है. मैं तो एक्टर हूँ. मैं तो अलग-अलग तरह के कैरेक्टर्स प्ले कर सकता हूँ. तू तो हीरो है. अगर तेरे बाल उड़ गए तो तुझे काम ही नहीं मिलेगा. He used to mess with me, dude.
And nobody would have known that you are Pankaj Kapur's son. And you are aware of that, right?
Very few people knew about it. Yeah, I was aware of that. Yeah.
You're obviously aware
I was
of
actually very proud of the fact that I was doing it without really being known as an established actor's kid or actually calling people who your father has worked with, because that kind of gives you an in. None of that really happened with me.
So was it like kind of an strange relationship in some form?
Strange
like in terms of a rebellion?
No, there was no rebellion as such, but of course my father was not in Delhi, right? So I would see it probably once a year till I turned 10 and I shifted to Bombay. Once I shifted to Bombay, I had more time in and around. At that time plane tickets and all were very expensive, and then you had to take long train journeys. So by nature of distance, the interaction was limited. But once I came to Bombay and I started staying here, we kind of found our.
Why did you move to Bombay?
My mom shifted here. She wanted to do movies.
So when growing up, did you see Karam Chand, for instance? Because we all
course.
did. And so it's like, that's my dad and he's really funny.
I had a traumatic experience.
Why?
Because, my dad came to Delhi and Karam Chand had come out, and I was a kid. I was like, I don't even remember how much of it I watched, because I was busy playing cricket and chilling with friends and doing my own thing, right? I was quite young. And he was like, Beta, I'm going to take you out today, this, that, and all. And he takes me out to Nirula's in Delhi.
Which Nirula's?
I don't remember which one.
Okay.
I think it was Connaught Place.
Okay.
I think the one in Connaught Place, one of them. There were so many there.
Yeah,
so
there were quite a few.
I was too young. मेरे को याद नहीं है किधर वाला था. So anyways, we went there and we were eating some nice food and all. And suddenly, people start crowding around him. And then one by one, people start bringing gajars. And then I have this memory, wide angle shot of lots of people with a gajar. ये आप हमारे हाथ से खा लीजिए. And my dad is a very reserved person.
Yeah, he is.
He's a damn serious actor. Even when he's doing comedy, he takes it very seriously.
Yeah.
So he was like, ये क्या कर रहे हैं आप लोग? ये क्या मैं अपने बेटे के साथ पिज्जा खा रहा हूँ. And we had to run away from there, dude. He held my hand and he said, Beta, let's run, because there were 30 people with gajars. There was this weird king people have, man. They wanted to feed my dad gajar, because he used to have that gajar. He used to eat gajar.
Yeah, that's what Karam Chand
did. And that had
did.
become some kind of a thing. So everybody wanted to feed him the bloody gajar, dude. So I remember I was just like, this is pathetic. I don't want to go out with him anymore. Because it was a really...
Well, were you not a fan of the show?
No, but I don't want to be surrounded by 100 people ka crowd. I mean, imagine a 6-7-year-old kid, So I was traumatized. I was like, Dad, I ain't going out with you anymore. Let's just eat at home. So that's just a strong memory I have of Karam Chand. But of course, it was such an iconic show. Even now, when I go, there's so many people who meet me and they're like, हाँ आप ठीक है, लेकिन आपके पापा का जो करम चंद हम देखते थे बचपन से, So television had especially the stuff that was popular, and that was, I think, the golden era of television, where some great work was happening. I think the penetration of the platform was huge. And even now when people have these conversations about movies versus OTT and you should be seen here and will you be a movie star if you're on, I find it all very funny, because I'm like, I think the audience doesn't think like that. You need to make the right product for the right platform, and if they love you, they just bloody love you, man. It doesn't matter where they consume you.
Right.
I mean, so I felt that very early. I was like, my dad's a huge bloody star. Doesn't matter if he does more television than movies and that there are movie stars. He was hugely popular.
Yeah, which is why I didn't ask you about all the other stuff he's done, which was in the art house space. Ek Daughter Ki Maut and stuff. Because you're too young to be following.
I've seen all that.
You have.
You'll be surprised. I've seen all that. Rui Ka Boj, Ek Daughter Ki Maut. Jaane Bhi Do Yaaro is my all-time favorite movie. I bloody love that movie. I've seen all of his.
But that's not the career that you choose for yourself. I remember reading an interview of your dad long time ago, and he said something to the effect of how, you're very street smart. You're very different from him. I wonder what he meant by that.
That was his perspective or understanding of me, right? He's a pure actor. So when I make a slightly more mainstream choice, he will feel that, he thinks differently from how I think, right? So it's natural for him to feel like that. Yeah.
Because you're also very different personality types. Would that be correct to say? As people, are you very different?
My aspirations were my aspirations. He was born to a professor in Ludhiana. And his aspiration to be a film actor, I think, was far more kind of blasphemous, so to say, than for an actor's son to want to be a hero. I think that's a smaller kind of transition than what so he was actually the one in the family who broke out towards the arts, so to say. And he took that step of stepping away from a father who was a professor and then a principal, to choosing something, and that many years back, which was not necessarily at that time considered even a profession, so to say, right? It was unreasonable to think like that. Right. So he was the one who made it. And then my mom was a classical dancer, and then they gave me their DNA. So, I mean, can I blame myself?
No, you shouldn't. No, you shouldn't. You've had a fabulous life, but also you've had amazing struggles as well. I mean, you've spoken about how, this whole barista in Lokhandwala, and there is a whole bunch of people who come from various parts of India trying to make it. I want to understand, because you did it your way in the sense of being one of them. You never made those calls, right? You were the same person listening to other people's stories, hoping that you'll land. You've apparently done 200.
Also, my dad was a very private person. So he didn't really have a huge social group of friends. And he would never ever, he thought it would probably not be self-respecting of him to pick up the phone and say, mere bete ko le lo, ya mere bete se mil lo. At that time, it was considered, at least with certain set of people who felt a certain way, that that's not right. I should not put pressure on somebody to meet you because you are my son, so to say, right? So I kind of, I had grown up in that kind of atmosphere where they had made it on their own merit, so I was very proud of the fact that my parents didn't come from a lineage of people doing the same thing, ki lawyer ka beta lawyer ban jayega, doctor ka beta doctor ban jayega, actor ka beta actor. It was not like that. Imtiaz was a new director when he came to meet me. He had been roaming around with the script for a few years.
Oh yeah?
And it wasn't getting made. And the first time he came to me, the script, they come with, he came with the script and it had Geet written on it. So I said, Geet ka kya matlab hai? So he said, वो हीरोइन का नाम है. तो आई लुक्ड एट, आई सेड, अगली बार हीरो के पास जाएगा तो हीरोइन के नाम वाली स्क्रिप्ट लेकर मत जाना, कुछ और लिख देना. सो द नेक्स्ट टाइम ही केम टू मी, इट हैड ट्रेन रिटन ऑन इट.
How do you arrive at that name? It just happened on its own.
My dad came up with it.
No, really?
Yeah. So I told my dad, we should have a title which is half Hindi, half English. Because, it's a rooted film, but it's very like contemporary. So it should kind of give people that message. And he was like, what's it about? There's two people, they meet on a train, this, that, blah, blah, blah. And then they end up hanging together, and then they fall in love, and then he falls in love. And he was like, you should call it Jab We Met. Then I proposed that name to Imtiaz, and he was unsure. And so was the producers. And then we actually, for that film, we had a contest, which we ran in one of the papers.
Right.
And I think there was Bhatinda Express was one potential title. Jab We Met, and there was a third one, I don't remember what the hell that was called. So Jab We Met won that contest, and that's how they decided to go with the name.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, you obviously then, in that case, work sort of close to your dad in terms of discussing all the scripts you're working on.
No,
work-wise.
not really.
I mean, this was like a one-off thing or what?
No, it was a dinner conversation.
What are you working on?
Dad, ये चल रहा है, ये नाम नहीं मिल रहा है, आप बताओ what you feel, and it just kind of happened. And he said, हाँ ऐसा कुछ रख दो while eating rajma chawal. It happened. And it happened after that. But Dad is very difficult. I had never been able to get him to read a script of mine.
Really?
Yeah, he just doesn't get down.
But you would like him to?
Of course. But he never gets down to it. हाँ बेटा मैं बताता हूँ, it's difficult for him to read scripts. Like, I think a lot of very highly kind of like great actors or like great cinematic minds find it difficult to reach content which is substandard most of the times. It's like, अब ये कौन पढ़ेगा type, kind of thing. So I couldn't get him to read much.
I will tell you, the first time I met your dad, this was for a film festival that we're doing, and we wanted to give him a Lifetime Achievement Award. And I called him up, and he was gracious enough to come and accept it. And he said, "Beta,
when was this?
This is about 5 or 6 years ago, or maybe 4 or 5 years ago." And then he calls me up and he says, "Beta, मैं आपको अपना CV भेज दूँ?" I'm like, this is Pankaj Kapur. I don't need your CV for God's sake. You know what I mean? Is he really like that? Is he someone who's not aware of his greatness because he probably doesn't fraternize in the same way that everyone else does and is not told by everyone that you're the greatest ever?
But he's told by enough people he's the greatest. He is.
But he's not out there. He's from the sense I guess.
I think he comes from a place of humility and he comes from a place of, not taking anything for granted. And I think he's tried to pass that on to all of us. Dude, he knows how good he is.
Okay.
He's also highly selective.
Is he faking it?
No, he's not faking. He's not a fake person at all. But maybe that's just he doesn't want to take anything for granted and he wants to reach out and say, listen, if you need anything, I'll share it
send
with
you my CV.
But even I didn't know that, so it's
but you work with him, right?
Interesting to hear that. Of
you
course I
work with him. You did that film, which was a huge budget film for its time, 2011. He directed it. There was a directorial debut, Mausam. Yes. What happened there? I mean, it was not the way you'd imagined in terms of how to get received, right? What happened
there was too much that happened on that
Okay.
film. Behind the scenes and all, there's a lot that happened. I don't really want to get into the details of it. We unfortunately couldn't make it exactly the way that I think he had envisioned it. We met with a lot of challenges, but having said that, a failure is a failure, and we probably fell short. That's okay.
That's perfectly fine. I mean, you gave yourself like 2 years on that film, right?
Yeah, he gave his 2 years, I gave a year and a half. Yeah.
Which for its time is a very big deal because you're at the peak of your career in many ways.
Yes.
So did you feel like right after what was perhaps a commercial debacle of Mausam that, I need to catch up?
But I didn't feel that the film came together also.
Okay.
Like I was not feeling good about the final cut of the film. I was also uncomfortable and so I kind of wasn't sure if it's going to land. But sometimes something's already done and there are too many things that play a role in it having landed like that and things like that, right? So we did the best that we could.
Which is very different from how you worked earlier where you were walking in because these are the options available to you. By then you were a star.
I stopped working like that. Like I think Mausam was the beginning of me changing that thing of just, getting a film and getting on set and probably sometimes getting dialogue on set and all. I was like, I don't want to work like that anymore. So Mausam was a step in that direction, even though it might have failed. But I was clear that I want to work in a certain way, and I think that's the dream that me and Dad set out with. That listen, let's make movies the way that, with a sense of commitment. But very. So it was supposed to happen over 6 months, but the film got delayed over a year and a half because there were many things that were out of our control because of which it didn't happen. And then everybody else started going and doing other things. And me and Dad would look at each other and say, "Ab hum dusre logon ke dates ke piche bhag rahe hain," because we decided that we'll do one film at a time and we'll commit ourselves to it and we'll give all of ourselves to it and that's how films should get made. But nobody else was thinking like that. Everybody else was kind of doing other stuff, and because the film got delayed, we were just like waiting to get their dates, and we looked at each other and said maybe that wasn't such a good idea.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.